Desperate for water, Afghan women dig in a dried-up irrigation canal. 3 years without proper rain has left all but one of southern Afghanistan's 9 rivers dry. Empty now for more than 4 months, this dam was once more than 40 meters deep and provided water and livelihood for more than 1 million people. The valley it fed was fabled for its fine fruits. Now all that and more is threatened.
The absence of rain will mean one thing: mass population movement, and that's what we're trying to discourage at the moment.
Providing drinking water the top priority. This well already left dry by the rapidly falling water table. Villagers crowd round another, its hole just deep enough to reach water. The water keeps receding, Haji says. Yes, it keeps receding, and it's got worms, adds Mohammed. Even the old here say they have never seen the situation so bad. Their fear, if the water runs out, they will have to leave. Already, they say, most of their 10,000 animals, this village's livelihood, have either died or been sold because there is no food. Further down the valley, fruit farmers face a similar plight. You can see they are dry, Yar says. They have nothing in them. His fear now, lack of water will kill the trees. At a nearby well, girls collect water while they can. The level 15 feet down from 2 weeks ago, and with no rain expected anytime soon, aid groups say they have no idea how long the rapidly dwindling supplies will last. Already, tens of thousands have fled to cities in search of water and food. Among the hardest hit, the nomadic Kuches. I am so hungry, Mohammed says. I cannot afford any food. Malnutrition is not a killer yet. Aid officials, however, worry their food stocks will not meet demand.
It's very, very severe. And unless rain falls in the coming rainy season, probably we'll see Africa-like pictures in this region.
More than 5 million people are threatened. So far, the falling water is costing them only their livelihoods. The fear is with no rain, it will start costing lives. Nick Robertson, CNN, Kandahar, Afghanistan. By the truckload, Afghanistan's internally displaced arrive at Maslak camp. 25 families, 111 people crammed on this open-top transporter. Among them, 80-year-old Fayaz Mohammed, struggling after 3 days traveling in the freezing cold. I am hungry, he cries. Yesterday evening was the last time I ate, and that was almost nothing. We left the village, leader Abdul Ghafoor explains, because 20 people had died. After 2 years of drought, we could not cope. A familiar story for many of the 40,000 others at this camp. 3 years without adequate rain has left livestock dead, crops failed, and no alternative but to search for food elsewhere. About 100 families a day are arriving, way beyond aid officials' expectations.
If you consider the whole situation in Afghanistan, this is pushing the whole IDP population towards 500,000. This is definitely straining our resources.
Across town, Shaidi camp is already full. 3 families share this mud and canvas hut. Abdul Karim complains, I have been here 5 months, and we have only been given wheat once, he says, and we need blankets. For many, the first-time visit of a TV crew, a chance to show their desperation. For others, like Bilqis, with no one to look after them, words are barely needed. The young too are suffering. 18-month-old baby Naeem, at 9 pounds, severely malnourished. Along with 8 other badly underweight babies, he is getting special care in the camp's new clinic. High protein rations have just been started for older children. A lack of donor commitments is leaving everyone guessing how long each of the new projects can be sustained.
We have problems relating to food, we have problems relating to shelter, and we have problems relating to the return of how to encourage the return of these people to go back home.
More shelters are being built, the wages paid in wheat, and no one here is talking about leaving. They've already missed planting this year's crops. So far this winter, the seasonal rain and snowfall has been way below average. The fear among aid organisations now that if the drought continues, so will the displacement of people on a scale much greater than before, possibly stretching relief efforts to breaking point, something they say would put 1 million people at risk of starvation. Nick Robertson, CNN, Herat, Afghanistan. Overcome with emotion, Hurry Ben has just found her husband. After 3 days of searching, the news she was fearing. He is found dead, buried under rubble at the city hospital. Anguish and despair are plentiful commodity as the city's buildings yield those entombed in the rubble. Through the day, rescue efforts were continuing, the Indian Army taking the leading role. A few survivors were found, the vast majority, however, dead. With fears of disease spreading from the dead growing, government authorities are burning many of the bodies. The public pyre's the final resting place for those not claimed by their families. So far, more than 300 disposed of this way. Already one of the biggest relief efforts by India's armed forces, it is now beginning to be augmented by international assistance.
From our perspective, the priority is to get food into people. The markets are empty. A lot of material, a lot of foodstuffs have been looted from the warehouses. So a lot of the shops are closed. People can't really buy anything.
priority also shelter for the thousands who have lost their homes. Dr. Verma shows the cracks the quake left in his living room. Now he fears it is no longer safe to stay.
There is still doubt that it may come again. There are again chances the earthquake may come again because rebound is always there.
He is not alone. Even those who have suffered minimal damage to their homes have taken to the streets, living in the open rather than indoors, while thousands of others are fleeing the area altogether. Only now, as the scale of devastation and loss begins to become clear, can the scope of the relief effort needed to feed and shelter so many begin to be properly assessed. Relief officials say it could be weeks before they fully have the situation under control. Nick Robertson, CNN, Puj, India. The body of a 3-year-old girl named Ashra is borne away quickly for burial by villagers. No ceremony and no grief, just the safe disposal of another potential health threat. Her simple funeral may, however, be the last these villagers perform for a while. They believe all 234 people missing from their village of 6,000 are now accounted for. In the ash-filled improvised crematorium, the talk is now of the future and what they need.
Food, clothes and houses. When we work, we'll be able to eat, but the government should help build the houses.
Back in the village, a digger donated by a fuel company, now freed up from searching for bodies, begins to clear the roads of rubble. And close by, an old man is moved out of the way, seemingly oblivious to what's going on around him. Like so many others here, still in shock. Villagers say government officials have promised to rebuild their region, make it golden once again. With thousands of communities affected, that will likely take a long time, and most here haven't even begun to figure out how to do it. Jakra Vishram, who survived the quake along with his wife and children, picks through the rubble of his home. He doesn't know how they'll rebuild it. When the Prime Minister came past the village the day before, Jakra says he was too busy putting his life back in order to watch. He says the government is doing nothing. All we want is help. Jakra's neighbour, who owns 70 acres of land, surveys what's left of his house. The family eats and sleeps in the garden now. I don't know what to do, he says. We'll talk amongst the village elders and try to figure it out. On the edge of the village, the first mobile health clinic to visit begins to dispense help. Privately funded, the medics drove 600 miles to be there. Typical villagers say that the only type of help they've been getting, private help. Nick Robertson, CNN, Ratnal, India. At the Lakshi oil mill company, the gates are kept locked to keep the looters out. Already, plant owner Tetraj Pukraj Jain says he's lost $10,000 worth of refined peanut oil to thieves. His bigger concerns, however, are replacing the $8,000 generator that powered the peanut presses and fixing other equipment and buildings damaged in the quake. The total bill for repairs, he estimates at over $100,000. The government, he says, will give us a loan, but we haven't seen it yet. His co-owner, Jogesh Shah, adds, if we don't get it, I don't know what we'll do. The pair have insurance, but don't know if it will ever pay out. They've given their 25 employees what they can to keep them going. Profits were never very large, barely $500 a month. Neighbouring businesses are similarly hit, like this plant that makes puffed rice cereal. Lost production here means in turn lost revenue for farmers unable to sell their rice. Downtown, small business owners are packing up what they can salvage and preparing to leave.
No business, this shop after repair.
Those who can are getting out of town until homes or businesses can be fixed. Everyone here is planning on the government to help them get back on their feet. Indian experts put the repair bill for industry alone at $5 billion. And the cost of rebuilding homes, they say, could be 2 to 3 times that amount. Prime Minister Atal Vajpayee has warned of a tough budget ahead and hinted there may be tax raises to pay for the quake. It will be a long time before the rebuilding can begin. The Indian Army is still busy clearing bodies and debris. The worst hit buildings will have to be demolished. Before this quake, Bhuj was a popular destination with tourists looking for a picturesque escape. Retired policeman H.P. Jadeja shows the 250-year-old shrine he used to visit twice a day. It used to be beautiful, he says. Because of the quake, the tourists, he says, will know the situation is not good and stay away. He expects things to get better, but like most here, he doesn't know exactly how or when. Nick Robertson, CNN, Bhuj, India. At Madonna's side, carrying their 4-month-old child Rocco, British movie director Guy Ritchie, Madonna's husband-to-be. Also arriving for the baby's christening at the 13th century Dornoch Cathedral, Britain's northernmost, many of their friends bringing Hollywood into the heart of the Highlands. Preparations for Rocco's christening and his parents' wedding a welcome delight for many in the remote town.
I've never seen this in my life, never. No, even when the Queen Mother was here, there wasn't all this. No, nothing like it. I think it's brilliant.
Normally a sleepy town reliant on summer tourists, the unseasonal burst in business brought by Madonna is seen as a harbinger of better days.
There's going to be a huge tourism spin-off because I think people are realising that, a romantic getaway from it all wedding, Highland wedding, is the kind of cool thing to do.
On the Royal Dornoch golf course, they acknowledge Madonna may help a wee bit.
Brings the town a bit of fame, but the main fame of the town is this golf course.
In Dornoch's butcher's shop, fresh Highland venison is being dressed. The sentiments here down to earth.
It'd be nice to see her walking about the streets, but we're not going to see her. We'll probably see her on TV.
Apart from the christening, Madonna, Guy and many of their more famous friends have sequestered themselves in the sumptuous luxury of nearby Skibo Castle, venue for the wedding, and former Scottish hideaway for turn-of-the-century American industrialist Andrew Carnegie. The castle is remote, beautiful, and if its name in the ancient Celtic language is to be believed, a peaceful fairyland. It is off limits to the media, which are blamed for disrupting the singing star's Malibu wedding to Sean Penn in 1985. Photo agencies say a clandestine picture of the wedding could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And while no one here appears to be counting the cost of keeping the prying lenses at bay, the remote Highland castle is likely a minimum Madonna and Guy require to keep their wedding a private affair. Few secrets can be held forever, even this far from the mainstream of showbiz. Perhaps the best kept secret until now, Dornoch and its natural beauty. Nick Robertson, CNN, Dornoch, Scotland.
Call me Ishmael, not the outcast sailor of Moby Dick, but the stony stretch of beach in Wales. Winter storms and rising sea levels have now laid bare what was the medieval Welsh village of St. Ishmael, buried and forgotten for 400 years beneath these sand dunes.
Because the sand has covered it, it's been left sort of as was. We still have standing walls. Nobody's had a chance to really come and rob the stone from the buildings.
Sand dunes still cover much of this medieval mystery, but the remains of a wall, a doorway, a stone-paved floor reveal a Welsh settlement founded in the 13th century, hidden since the 17th century.
It is exciting. We've got small bits of building showing, but going further back, you've got bigger walls underneath there.
Archaeologists try to reconstruct St. Ishmael, imagining those who lived there.
They'd have been going out digging for shellfish on the beach. And then
half a millennium later, the Welsh still harvest food from the sea, whose tidal currents and winds buried St. Ishmael under 20 meters of sand.
There's a lot of blown sand, and it just moves around. And now it's beginning to move somewhere else again.
If something as non-catastrophic as shifting tides and blowing sands can swallow up the lives of generations at St. Ishmael, one can only imagine the fate of thousands of other coastal towns around the world as the oceans rise from global warming. In the last 100 years, the seas have risen 20 centimeters, 9 inches. Some global warming projections estimate it may rise again nearly another meter, 3 feet.
Clearly it means that many areas that are currently exposed to occasional flooding will be at risk of flooding very much more often. So the impact is severe, potentially, on places where there are large populations living very near to the sea.
When the sand swallowed St. Ishmael, environmental refugees moved to this nearby Norman castle. Some are buried in this churchyard where time and moss have erased their memories, leaving only questions.
We just don't know. We don't know who lived here. Did they feel the same way as, did they get upset by the same things? Did they, with the birth of a child, or did they feel the same?
How many other St. Ishmaels the warming planet will flood or bury, we do not know. But the oceans are warming, expanding, rising. And the abandoned village which once looked out over these waters hints that there is a strand going through time linking us together with what has gone before. Walter Rogers, CNN on the Welsh coast.
In a funny way, Ebenezer Scrooge, at his tight-fisted, flint-hearted worst, saved Christmas. In his time, the early 1800s, London was the biggest, richest city in the world. But it lured tens of thousands from the country to a life of squalor and suffering. Are there no prisons? Are there no workhouses? Scrooge's response to a gentleman collecting for the poor. Indeed there were, bustling London's way of dealing with those who couldn't keep up. As a boy, Charles Dickens knew, because his father was in prison working off his debts. And like many children then, Charles, age 12, went to work at a boot polish factory that stood right around here. No wonder, maybe, that 160 plus years ago, the Christmas spirit was just flickering. The busy Industrial Revolution had little patience for a midwinter mixture of Christian and pagan merrymaking.
And the first tree in the greenwood, it was the holly.
And the singing of Christmas carols had all but died out years before. Thus it was when Charles Dickens, ex-legal clerk, newspaper reporter, and pop fiction writer, sat down in 1843 to write a Christmas story. He started in mid-October. By the week before Christmas, it was a bestseller. A Christmas Carol. You won't find much about Christ in it, but plenty about good food, good cheer, goodwill. A kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time, in Dickens' words, when men and women seem by one consent to open their shut-up hearts. Still today, it gives our image of Christmas an old-fashioned flavor. Here, at the annual Dickens Christmas Festival at Rochester, outside London, complete with Scrooge.
Oh, it's all humbug.
Miserly boss of poor Bob Cratchit. Until the ghosts changed his life on Christmas Eve. Christmas past. Christmas present. Christmas future. And the child ghosts called ignorance and want. We now call those days the Little Ice Age. Winters were much colder then, and people worried not about global warming, but about just plain keeping warm. Released from Scrooge's counting house on Christmas Eve for his one yearly day off, Bob Cratchit went sliding on the ice. Before running the couple of miles home to his wife, 4 rooms, and 5 children in Camden Town. The happy ending, Scrooge's Christmas transformation from miser to philanthropist, so melted Victorian hearts it was no surprise that as the years passed, society softened too. Londoners are different today. Work, attitudes, and laws are different. But greed survives in the city of Scrooge. Charles Dickens would still have plenty to write about. There are still those who don't rest merry, and the small ghosts called ignorance and want still attend the feast of Christmas present. Richard Blystone, CNN London.
There's one name on the posters, one face in the windows. Vladimir Putin. Elections in Tatarstan have always been a one-man show, and many people in central Russia say that's the way it should be. All the media, he says, television, newspapers, they're all preparing the people, getting them ready for a new leader. The likely new leader came to town this week to shore up support in one of Russia's Muslim republics. At the same time, he's directing a war in another. 2 different religions live here in peace, he says. It should be a model for the rest of Russia. The trip to Tatarstan is more than just a campaign stop for a candidate whose main theme is a strong central government. In the center of Russia, Tatarstan has its own flag, its own president, its own trade deals with more than a dozen countries. And most important, it gets to keep half the tax money it raises. All part of a deal Boris Yeltsin made to quiet an independence movement, to prevent another Chechnya. The next Russian president is expected to roll back some of those promises to rein in Russia's powerful governors. Tatarstan's president, Mintyr Shamiev, who backed Mr. Putin's foes in the parliamentary elections, could be one of the first targets. But until all the votes are counted, it's still all smiles from the acting president. Steve Harrigan, CNN, Tatarstan, Russia.
Dawn in Hanoi, Vietnam, and it is quiet. 25 years ago, this would have been impossible. Tai Chi beside the Lake of the Restored Sword. It is a place where many Vietnamese begin a new day. This 80-year-old war veteran fought against the French and the Americans. Life is good for a certain number of Vietnamese, he says, but difficult for others. It is our destiny. Vietnamese spend more time building for the future than remembering the past. This is all that remains of what Americans called the Hanoi Hilton. It was here where U.S. prisoners of war were held after being shot down over North Vietnam. Tourists now wander through what was once a miserable existence. Only a small fraction of the famous yellow prison remains. Most of it was torn down to make way for a tower of glass and marble that houses condos and a 5-star restaurant. The food wasn't so good when this man lived here, American Ambassador Pete Peterson, a former prisoner of war and now the top U.S. diplomat in Vietnam. He prefers to look forward, not to the past.
Well, that's true, but I don't forget the lessons of the past. And we certainly aren't going to forget any of those in the process of moving forward.
There are few remaining signs of the war days here. This rusting American B-52 wreckage is one of the few reminders of what was. Fishermen no longer wait along the banks of Hanoi's lakes for downed American pilots. These days, the waters only give up fish. A short distance away, this marker reminds passers-by of the spot where one of America's most famous POWs was captured, U.S. Navy pilot John McCain. McCain is now a U.S. Senator. He's run for president and was one of the driving forces behind normalized diplomatic relations with Vietnam. He has been here many times as the remains of U.S. pilots are handed over by the Vietnamese in return for proper burial in the United States.
Senator McCain will return to Vietnam next week as this country celebrates 25 years of peace. His visit, coupled with another former POW who is now the U.S. ambassador, may be good indicators of just how well both nations have been able to put the war behind them.
Vietnam's population is now more than 70 million. Most know nothing of what happened here 25 years ago. It will be in the history books, and it will be years before they are able to read them. Tom Mintier, CNN, Hanoi, Vietnam.